Here we've got this frightfully attractive, sexy monster who's coming along and massacring our boys. I mean, every Roman historian went wild about it.
After her husband, the client king Prasutagus, died, Boudicca and her daughters suffered rape and flogging at the hands of the Roman occupiers. Incensed by the injustice of Roman rule, Boudicca and her people, the Iceni tribe, began a trail of destruction across the settlements of the south, including the sacking of Colchester and London.
Although the story that we've got very much concentrates on sex and violence, what's really lying behind it is a much longer-term kind of exploitation. The Roman administration isn't thinking about humanitarian policies for the British provincials. They've invaded this province and they've got to get their money out of it.
We do hear, in the case of the Icenian revolt, that one of the causes was the recall of debts.
We get lots of hints in Roman historians that the Romans had been lending money to the Britons, then called in the debts in a way they simply couldn't repay.
Some people may have taken part in a revolt, not because they had enormously strong opinions about the Romans as such, but because they suddenly find themselves financially embarrassed.
It is quite striking that the Romans do seem to learn something out of the revolt of Boudicca. The upshot of this dispute, which must have gone back to Rome, is that the governor is dismissed and a new, much more low-key, hands-off governor is introduced to the province.
So Boudicca may not have won the battle against the Romans, but she certainly left an indelible impression on Roman history. It is clear, however, that she was not typical of women in this period.
We have very little idea about the status of women in Britain in general. There are other tribal leaders who are female. The likelihood is that, in general, women in Britain were as downtrodden, as exploited as all women in the ancient world. I think one of the issues, though, for us, and why we tend to think of Boudicca as powerful and to imagine that her status is something really special, is, of course, the Romans got terribly preoccupied with her. There was nothing that the Romans kind of liked to salivate more about than a really powerful queen. And in some ways, Boudicca comes along and fills that role for the West.